what's up, everyone? Sam Shaw here, founder of Wall Street Mastermind. I am super excited to be here today with another client interview for you guys. Today, we're talking to Rukhsar, who just finished going through the summer 2022 recruiting process. And she has an amazing story that I just really wanted to share with you guys. And, had a very successful recruiting process. And I think some of the things that we're going to talk about today hopefully will help you guys as well in your own recruiting process. And so Rukhsar, thank you so much for for spending the time to talk to us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I guess to start, if you don't mind just kind of introducing yourself a little bit so that people kind of can get a sense of who you are, and then we'll kind of dive into kind of how the recruiting process was for you.
Yeah, so my name is Rukhsar. I am a junior at Baruch College, majoring in finance and minoring in journalism. So prior to joining Baruch, I graduated from community college in New York City, and I always knew that I wanted to go into finance. And so I decided to transfer over to a four-year college, started majoring in finance and got really interested in investment banking and came across Wall Street Mastermind and all it had to offer. So I decided to join. I took part of all the opportunities that I provided to really help me land a couple of offers.
Got it. That's awesome. And so did you transfer from your community college to Baruch after your first year then, or after your second year?
Yes, so it was my second year. So I completed my associate's degree and then transferred over.
Got it.
And there were a lot of challenges, as a transfer student trying to get into investment banking.
Right.
And I think Wall Street Mastermind really, provided me with like a lot of financial background to help me get familiar with finance. And so I was really grateful for that as well.
Yeah, because usually I find we've worked with a few other community college students as well. And usually one of the big challenges is since you're not transferring to the four-year school until, after your second year, and just with how early the recruiting timeline is nowadays, like by the time you transfer, it's like, oh, recruiting is already happening. And it's not like you can recruit before you transfer because nobody recruits from community colleges.
Right.
So like, did you kind of run into that a little bit? Like just in terms of were you kind of already behind from the get-go, essentially?
Absolutely. I wanted to, intern at an investment bank while at community colleges, but they didn't recruit. So what I did was transfer over to Baruch as soon as I can, take summer classes so I have a GPA, and take as many courses as I can, find internships to really position myself to be as strong as candidates, who didn't come from community colleges, to, some who was competing with from target schools, from really good non-target schools as well. So that's what I did to help position myself to be a better candidate.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I guess so you say you're a junior now, right? You joined Wall Street Mastermind. I'm trying to find this. Do you remember when you joined Wall Street Mastermind? Like what month?
Yes, I believe it was the end of October of last year, 2020.
Right. Yeah, I see that here actually in my data. Yeah, so end of October last year, right? So that's basically what early sophomore year, right?
Right.
When sophomore year had just started. Okay. So like what had you done leading up to, like prior to October sophomore year? Like were you already kind of doing stuff on your own to, I mean, you kind of talked about some of it, like taking classes and transferring schools, but aside from that, like had you been networking or prepping for interviews already, or doing internships, or were you kind of starting from scratch when you joined our program?
Yeah, I would say it was a mixture of both. I was trying to find people to network with, and also I just didn't have a sense of direction. And so, we had that 400 question packet online, so I was using that to help me prep. although I was just not understanding the concepts of some of those questions. And so I was really looking for direction, and I found Wall Street Mastermind, and the modules helped immensely. So really, I was just using all the free online resources that I could find, trying to network with people on LinkedIn to get a better understanding of the industry. But
Yeah,
I wasn't seeing as much results with just doing that.
got it. So you were basically doing like the same things that most people are typically doing already, reading the 400 questions guide, talking to people on LinkedIn, but just trying to like figure everything out on your own as you go along, basically. Like there wasn't really anyone like mentoring you or guiding you and teaching you like the right way to do things, essentially.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
So then like I guess obviously you came across Wall Street Mastermind. You probably saw, I don't know, one of our ads or LinkedIn posts or something like that. Can we like kind of talk about like what ultimately made you want to join though? Because like I'm guessing joining Wall Street Mastermind probably wasn't like, I don't know if it was an easy decision for you, but it certainly wasn't like a decision that you made lightly. Like you probably put a lot of thought into it, right? And it wasn't like, can you just kind of talk about why you decided to join? Because you are already using the free online resources, right? And then our listeners don't know this yet, but like it's not like you come from like a super wealthy family, which a lot of people assume that all of our clients come from super wealthy families, but you're probably like the opposite of that, right? And so Wall Street Mastermind was, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Wall Street Mastermind was a pretty significant investment for you, right?
Absolutely.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think I remember like, a lot of times like people's parents pay for this program on their behalf, but for you, like you didn't have that luxury, and so you paid for this with your own savings, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken, right?
Yep. Correct.
So like, talk to me about that a little bit, which is like, what what made you want to make this type of investment in yourself, especially I feel like because our team has spoken to a lot of people that maybe are from a similar like financial background as you, but uh, they typically make the decision to not join because they think that maybe it's too scary or too big of a burden for them, or like they just can't afford it, right? So like what's your mindset when you're thinking about this?
Yeah. So, Wall Street Mastermind, absolutely, it's not cheap. You're getting, the best resources out there. And so when I was doing my research on Wall Street Mastermind, what I found out is that the program really prepares you to be in the best shape possible. And me personally, I was using these free online resources, trying to network with professionals, although I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to see. And then, some of my friends who spoke to Sam previously told me about this program and how, it was legit. And so I signed up for a free strategy session with Sam and got all the info that I needed to get. And, coming from a low income background, being first generation, um, it was a huge investment. And what was really important to me that was I was provided with all of the tools. I was a new transfer student. I was navigating a 4-year college during the pandemic. And really with investment banking recruiting is time. And the more time that goes, the lesser chance that you'd have. And I knew Wall Street Mastermind would be a long-term investment and it would give me great returns. And so what I did was I worked on a payment plan with Sam to really afford the program. And essentially, it was really my mindset. I knew if I was, putting the work in, I will get the results. And just having that mindset that, put the work in and get the results. And ultimately, money comes and goes. If you investing in yourself and you put in the hard work, you'll get where you want to get and you'll get your offers. So that was really the mentality that I had. I worked 2 jobs part time while going to school full time. and just keeping at it is what helped me land my offers.
Right, right. I mean, I think that first of all, that's amazing, right? That you have that type of mindset to be bold enough to like not come from a place of scarcity and still kind of invest in yourself, even if maybe that would seemingly probably make it tougher in the near term, because then you have to kind of like you probably have to cut expenses from elsewhere, and that's inconvenient. But you know that in the long run, it's going to be better for you, right? And a lot of times I find that people are so worried about what's going to happen in the near term that they sacrifice the long term, which is almost never like the optimal way of going about it. Right? It's like the delayed gratification is almost always a good thing, if you can do it, but that's the hard part, right? I think like, people might hear this and say like, well, if you were able to get an offer in the end anyway, then how do you know you couldn't have gotten an offer on your own? Like if you just put in the same amount of hard work on your own and you just, didn't join Wall Street Mastermind, you saved that money, like how do you know you couldn't have gotten it on your own? Right? Like, or in other words, the people that get offers with Wall Street Mastermind are only getting it because they're people that are total rock stars and they would have gotten a job regardless. Right? Like we've heard that before from a lot of people. So like what would you say to that? Do you feel like you would have gotten the type of results you got on your own if you kind of like didn't go through this program?
Yeah, I would say no. I without Washington Mastermind, I don't think I would have gotten the offers that I have gotten from a couple of banks. I think what Washington Mastermind really does differently is that they give you modules, they give you what you need to learn instead of learning all those 400 question packets and all the other packets that you will find online. They help you, best tell your story, know all the technicals, and really position yourself to be a strong candidate. And I know that feedback is extremely important. And if I were doing this solo, I wouldn't really be, getting feedback from elsewhere. And I think Sam and his team really provided me with that feedback during office hours and always being available. That really helped shape my resume, my standing, and help me land offers. So to your question, without Wall Street Mastermind, I wouldn't have landed all the offers that I did get.
Yeah, I mean, like if we just think about it logically, it's like obviously for someone in your position, if you felt like this is something you could have done on your own, there's no way you would have spent this money because it's a lot of money for you and your family, right?
Definitely.
And so I think like that part makes a lot of sense, at least to me. Maybe not to some other people, I don't know. But you talked about something else that was really interesting too, which is like being from a low income background, being first generation, um, and being a transfer student. Like really, what you needed was time, or in other words, like utilizing. I mean, we can never get more time. We all only have 24 hours in a day, and time doesn't go back. But the way you can get more time is by becoming more efficient and utilizing your time better and being able to do more with less, right?
Exactly.
And so that actually dovetails really nicely with kind of like what ultimately ended up happening for you during recruiting, because we all know the last year has been crazy, and with the pandemic, and like that hit a lot of people pretty hard, right? And can you kind of like just, I don't want to speak for you, but can you share a little bit about kind of like what happened, which is that ended up taking up all your time and competing with recruiting, and kind of how you overcame that?
Yeah. So, the pandemic hit everyone hard, especially for my family financially. And so at the time, I was the only one who was working two jobs, two part-time jobs while being a full-time student. And so, when I joined Wall Street Mastermind, I was attending all these office hours and, doing the modules and everything else. But a lot of my time was being taken up by my classes, having to work. And so it was really hard. It was really challenging. And so what I had to do, is just to be in that mindset of, having to put the work in, because essentially time is of the essence. So just putting the work in and trying to figure out and prioritize my situation.
Yeah.
And so that's essentially what I did. And I kept at it with Wall Street Mastermind. And, this program is not cheap at all. I mentioned this before. And I think what really helped me was working along the way, getting those results, networking with people and creating meaningful connections to land interviews was really what kept me going throughout the entire process. And so that's really essentially what I did during the pandemic when all of that was happening when I joined.
And you mentioned you had to work 2 jobs on top of school. So like, how many hours a week were you working? So like,
Yeah, so I was working insane hours. So I had to work more hours because a lot of the people where I worked left. So each would be anywhere from 30 to 35 hours a week. So we were looking at 60 to 70 hours a week, which was insane. And I would, do my classes while at work because they were all online. So it really just came to managing everything. And mind you, on top of that, I had the Wall Street Mastermind modules and the office hours. So that really took my focus away from Wall Street Mastermind for couple of weeks, for a few months. But then after, when everything suited down, I came back. I worked double the time on Wall Street Mastermind. I really started getting results with landing interviews and then getting offers.
yeah.
So that was all of COVID.
And I think you were telling me like you would literally be watching the Wall Street Mastermind modules like on your way to work or like in
Yeah.
your commute and stuff, right? Was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's like, but literally that's how hard you worked, is you didn't let a single second slip by without doing something productive, right? I mean, I can't imagine being a full-time student and then working 60 to 70 hours a week on top of that, and then also having to recruit at the same time. I mean, there's only 168 hours in a week, and you got to sleep, right? I don't know how much you slept, but like my point is, if obviously I know like having Wall Street Mastermind and having like the support of our coaches and having everything in one place, all organized and laid out in like the sequence or the order that you need to do it in, and then having people answer your questions in real time anytime you have questions, that saved a lot of time versus like you having to say like go on Google every time you had a question about every little thing.
Absolutely.
But like every single hour that was saved probably ended up mattering because just of just how busy you are, right? But also I think like the other thing I really want to highlight is like people think that, oh, getting into investment banking should be like this really easy thing, like anyone can do it, like as long as you have Google, all the information you need is out there already. But it's like, no, like you have to work really really freaking hard, right?
Exactly.
If all it took was a search engine, then everybody technically has access to Google. Everybody should be working on Wall Street already. But like, it's to graduate with a job that's going to pay you anywhere from 150 to $200,000 a year. Like that's not normal, like the
Right.
average college student is making $50,000 a year in the United States. So if you're going to make 3 to 4 times what the average person is making, you have to be willing to do something that other like the average person is not willing to do, right? You have to be exceptional, right? And so I think like people just lose sight of that sometimes. Like when I hear your story, it's amazing what you were willing to do to achieve your goals. And I think a lot of people would not have been willing to do what you were doing. I would not have been willing to make the sacrifices that you made, or if because I've spoken to many students, and I'm not like blaming them for this. Like I totally get where they're coming from, right? But I've definitely spoken to other students who's like, oh, dude, I really want to join your program, but pandemic and my family got hit pretty hard, and so like we just can't do it, right? And I totally get that because like pandemic was tough on people, and I think that's actually like the more normal reaction. I'm not even saying that the way you behaved is what most people would do, But what I am saying is like, that's why you got the results that you got though, right? It's because your mindset, your attitude, your mentality was just different. Like you had so much mental toughness and you had to persevere through so much crap because like life happens and a lot of things we don't control, right? Nobody knew the pandemic was going to happen. Nobody knew that it was going to affect like, your family and parents' jobs and things like that. But you have to kind of take what life throws at you and just deal with it, right? Like for lack of better, you just have to deal with it. Like what else can you do, right? Um, but it's also like it's almost like if you kind of flip it around and we talk about like the circumstances that you were in, some people will look at their circumstances and say, "Oh, because of my circumstances, I can't do this," right? And then some people will say, "Because of my circumstances, is exactly why I must do this. I have to make a better life for myself and for my family. I have to do something to turn things around." And I'm sure your parents made a ton of, like you said, your first generation, right? Like your parents probably made a ton of sacrifices just to
Yep.
even give you the opportunity to get a college education in the United States, which is, the greatest country in the world. And like to not let all of those efforts and sacrifices um, go to waste, like that's the mentality that you had, right? And so it's like I just think that like if this is not like our typical interview that we do typically, but I feel like the one biggest takeaway that I want to impart our listeners with is just like the importance of mindset, like it guides everything else that you do. um it's not like it's not really about like what happens to us in life. I think that determines like our outcome. I think a lot of times it's like because good things happen to all of us and then bad things also happen to all of us, right? um, but I think a lot of times the difference is in how we choose to react to the things that are happening to us, because again two different people can react totally differently to the pandemic or parents losing their jobs or this and that, right? It's just like you decide how you want to respond to adversity and how you choose to overcome it, right? So I know I'm like talking a lot, but like I'm just like, I feel like this is such an important message and I really want to make sure that it's not lost on people, like how much control you really have in determining just how successful you become, right? And I don't um I don't want to like dismiss the fact that some people are more fortunate than others. I'm not saying that that's not true at all. Like some people are born with a silver spoon, right? Some people have really wealthy parents, and some people can afford all sorts of stuff: SAT prep, college admissions counselors. They can afford to pay $80,000 a year to go to Ivy League schools. Like those are all advantages, right? And so I'm not saying that those things don't exist in the world, but I am saying that, you know, it's like poker. We have to play the hand that we're dealt, but we don't control what hand we're dealt, but we do control how well we play that hand,
Exactly. Yeah. And
right?
I think what's really important is that, if relate to my story, if you're low income, if you're first generation, if you're transferring over to a 4-year college from a community college, I think what's really important is just like to prioritize your goals and just be honest with yourself, be authentic, and really invest in yourself. I think a lot of us first generation low income college students, um, we want to provide for our families. We want to create a better life, get financial security for both ourselves and for our family. And I think we don't think about really investing in the very long term by financial means. For example, like paying for an expensive program or taking those extra prep classes. And I think if you if you have that mindset, or if you like shift your mindset to believe, like if I put the money in and get those results, you will get those results. And I think it's really scary. When I first joined Wall Street Mastermind, I was afraid. I was like, am I going to get the results that I want? But I think what's really important is just really to invest in yourself and put the work in, and really find mentors and people to help guide you throughout this path. And for me, it was Sam and his team. They were always readily available. And so I was really grateful for this program, just giving me direction and confidence, 100% confidence. I think that's what a lot of us first generation college students lack. We didn't have parents who went to college. So just finding, the right mentors for you, the right resources, and always having like an open line of communication, that will help you go really far. And for me, Wall Street Mastermind was that.
And I think like the other thing too is you're absolutely right. Like most people, when they don't have a lot of money, they're just worried about like putting food on the table, just like the
Right.
basics, right? And they're not thinking about, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like you're not thinking about like the higher levels of like, oh, investing in myself and this and that, right? But like that's really the stuff that's really going to help you. But also, I think like obviously you were scared coming to the program. That's totally normal, but you did it anyway. You didn't let your fear stop you. And in a way, like you investing in this program probably was a much bigger deal to you than like say um, another student who maybe is like really wealthy and this investment means nothing to them. What I've actually seen is like the more meaningful the investment is for the person, typically the more they get out of the program. Why? Because there was no chance in hell that you're going to invest the type of money you invested relative to your net worth, and for you to come in this program and just like not do the work, right? Like
Absolutely.
you're going to make sure you milk every last drop of value out of a program like this. And I've also seen like the other extreme end of the spectrum where, oh, mommy and daddy are rich and they like paid for this without even blinking an eye. And then they come in and they're like, oh my God, this is so much work. Like, never mind, I don't want to do this. Right. And it's not a big deal. Right. And so it's like, look, obviously, if you come in, you don't do the work, you're not going to get the results. Right. If you come in and you put in the work, you have everything you need in this program. You have the guidance around the clock. You have everything in one place. There's literally nothing. Having worked with like at this point almost 450 students, like there's nothing that's going to come up for you that we haven't seen before, right? And so I just think like it's kind of like the gym analogy. Like if you pay for a gym that's like $5 a month, we all get lazy. We're like, oh, I don't feel like going to the gym today. It's kind of hard. You pay for like Equinox or one of those fancy gyms that's like $200 a month, $300 a month. You're like, oh crap, I better go to the gym like every single day, right? It's kind of like that. Like I mean, the way that we function as humans, like our psychology is kind of twisted in that way. But for whatever reason, it's just like we value the things that we invest more into, right?
Right.
And there are very few things in life that I think are more important than your career. Like when it comes to like valuing what's important and what are the things you should be investing in, I think like your health, being healthy is probably the most important thing. And then it's like your relationships with the people that you love and care about. And then it's like your career and financial security. And guess what? Like all three things are related, because if you don't have financial security, it's harder to take care of the people that you love and care about. If you
Right.
don't have financial security, it's harder to stay healthy. It's harder to have, be able to pay for healthcare and go to the doctors and this and that. And so all these things are related. But if you can, I feel like you almost can't have one without the other, right? But if you can have all three of those things, then you're gonna hopefully be able to live a really, really good life, right? And that's really all we want at the end of the day. Every single one of us, we want to just live a good, healthy, happy life with the people that we love and care about, right? So I think that's really powerful stuff. So I guess like as one of the last things, like, can we just tell people like what was the outcome anyway for your recruiting process? Like, we know you were successful, but like, what kind of offers did you end up getting? Like, and like how did you and your parents feel about it? Um, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I got in offers from Jefferies, UBS, Mizuho. I have a couple more interviews as well. And, my parents were excited. I actually didn't want to scare them, telling them, like, I joined, a really expensive program, Wall Street Mastermind, because, they're immigrant parents. They're like, are you sure? Like, do you know what you're doing? And when I got my offers, I'm like, oh, like, by the way, I joined this program that really helped me get in. And they were like, oh, it's amazing. And what's really beautiful about the whole process, was that I'm able to retire my parents in a couple of years, and they've been working for all their lives.
Yeah.
And they were really grateful for Wall Street Mastermind. They were grateful for the help I've gotten from mentors, from the people I've networked with from different firms to help me get.
Oh,
They're super excited. And that's really where I am. And these are just some of the results that I've gotten so far.
yeah, got it. I think we lost your audio for like maybe 5 seconds there, but you're back. But what I did hear is you actually didn't tell your parents you joined this program until after you got the offers. I actually didn't know that because a lot of our students, like their parents know when they join, because obviously if they're going to invest in a program like this, they run it by their parents and get their blessing. But I guess that makes sense because you were using your own money. So you kind of just like made that decision unilaterally. Um, but that's, I mean, look, what you just said about being able to retire your parents in a few years, like I am, I'm just so happy to hear that because like that's like not that's why you work so hard and there's nothing that's why we all do what we do is again like I said to be able to provide for the people that we love and care about and then in your parents case they gave you so much and they made so much sacrifices for you and now you can be the one to take care of them, right? And so I think I am super grateful honestly that we were able to play just like a small part in this. And I say a small part because like honestly, like I would say 90% of the credit goes to you, right? Like you different people come in the program and get different results. For you to get such amazing results despite all the obstacles that were standing in your way, all the things you had to overcome. Not gonna lie, like you had a much tougher path than like most of our clients are very successful, but like you had a much tougher path than I would say like the vast majority of our clients, right? And so despite all of that, to get to where you are today, I think it's super well deserved. I'm almost like kind of tearing up just saying this, but like, yeah, but honestly, like it's super well deserved, and I think like I'm happy for all my clients when they get offers, but I'm like especially happy for someone like you know, and I'm just again so grateful that I got to, and not just me, but our entire team got to be a part of your journey because it's gratifying and fulfilling for us too, right? So I just want to thank you for, you know, putting your faith and your trust in us and letting us come along for this journey. And just super honored to be a part of it, to be honest. And I think, guys, if you're still listening to this interview, I don't know, there's not much else to be said, really. I think if you are in a place right now where maybe you feel like you're an underdog or you don't have the resources that you need to really like make things happen on the recruiting front. Maybe you're a transfer student, maybe you're first generation, maybe you don't have a lot of money and you don't have a lot of resources, whatever the case may be, right? um, if you want our help, like reach out to our team, right? Talk to us. um, More often than not, as long as there's a willingness on your end, we could probably structure something, work something out where we make things work for you. And if and only if you believe that this program is the type of program that can actually get you the results, then come on in. We would love to help you. And of course, if you don't have that confidence and you don't have the certainty, that this program can work for you, then don't come in. Like there's absolutely no pressure. Like it has to be right for you. But if it is right for you, then honestly, this could be life changing, right? Like if this is literally going to be the difference between you not getting into banking versus you getting into banking, like I said, we could double, triple, quadruple your income even right out of college, right? So anyway, I'll just leave it at that. If you guys want to book this call with our team, um, we call it like a virtual coffee chat. And actually, um, a new thing that we're doing is like before you even talk to our team, we're now doing it so that you can speak to a former client that's done our program and has been through the process. So it's just like you talking to an upperclassman who's finished recruiting, and you can just like you can talk to them about like whatever you want, right? Recruiting advice, what was their experience in Wall Street Management, whatever you want. And then after that, if you still want to talk to us, then you can talk to us, right? So it's just like a networking conversation, and it's very laid back and you know just full of value, right? And so if you want to do that, you can go to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. Again, it's the streets abbreviated to ST, so it's wallstmastermind.com/apply, and we'll get you on our calendar so that you can speak to one of our alumni and then take it from there. All right. So, Rukhsar, I want to thank you again for taking the time to come on here and share your story with us. I know it's like such a personal story, and I'm so appreciative that you're willing to just open up and talk about it because um, I think if this helps even one more person who's like you and it changes one more person's life, then it would have been well worth it, right? And so, again, huge congrats on all the success, and would love to stay in touch with you for sure, and would love to see like all the success that you continue to have. So please do keep us posted, and also obviously anything that you need help with, like you can always come back to us, and you're a part of the family. So
Thanks so much, Sam. I appreciate you and your team, all they've provided for me to really help me get here. So thank you.
yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, the honor is ours. So, guys, that will be it for this episode. And thank you for tuning in. We'll be back with more of these client interviews for you guys in the near future. All right. Talk soon.